New, 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 new. Everything fresh. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to blow. I'm ready to go. Who else is ready to go this morning? I'm so excited about today's session, right? Here's the crazy part. I have a new little widget to play with, right? I'm trying to see how this thing works, man. This thing is pretty cool, but this is supposed to, if you notice, my mode has changed, the picture has changed, and this is supposed to make it easier for us to be able to keep track and put this broadcast everywhere it needs to go. So, shouts out to the team for getting past Brown, making sure my brim is straight, man. Thing is, it's like different directions. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But hey, I'm happy to be here with you. As you guys know, this is day 12 of the Everything Must Change Challenge. New, everything new. And if you need to turn that up in your car in this season, just to remind you, that's that Ty Tribbett, I believe. Somebody put the song in the chat. That'll be our anthem as we're heading into the new year, saying everything must change. I'm that one, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to run. Put the running man in the chat. You guys know we are excited about being change agents, transition champions. We are excited about being those people that aren't afraid to put in the work to get the job done, because we will experience the goodness of God right here in the land of the living. We will see God's glory shine upon everything that we touch, everything that we do. And we are saying that we will be those agents of change, those transition champions. And Mr. Have a good day, Mr. Good News himself, Pastor Brian Poe, coming to you live from Tampa, Florida, is excited about walking this journey out with you. And you guys know what I like to say at the beginning every time, right? Listen, this you're not going to change. Things aren't going to get better simply because of what I'm saying. The Bible tells us, right, and this will be our scripture for this morning, that we are to be doers of the word and not just hearers only. We are to be doers of the word, and doers make decisions, doers make choices, doers have an attitude of gratitude. They have an attitude of a champion. They have an attitude that is relentless about what they believe God has told them, what they have seen in the Word of God, and they believe that all of it will come to pass. And they believe that the God who created the heavens and the earth, is active and alive on the inside of them. So ain't no quit in their system, ain't no quit in their tank. It's gas, all gas, no brakes. Y'all put some gas in the chat. Put some gas in the chat. Put some gas in the chat. All gas, no brakes. Why? Because we serve a God that loves us and is constantly giving us spiritual blessings. He's not withholding any good thing from us, the Bible says, but He is all the while at work bringing things together for your good. And I know 2023 is going to be good. Matter of fact, y'all already know. Beyond good. It's going to be beyond good. And I'm so thankful to be on this journey with you guys. But as you know, listen, we gotta get our success principles in. We just gotta get in. So let's get it in at the top. Let's just get it in. Constantly reminding ourselves that truth is new beginnings require a new commitment, and a new commitment requires room. We have to make room for everything new that God wants to do in our lives. You made room for this broadcast, and there's gonna be many things that speaks to you through 2023. Any new thing that He speaks to you, always be reminded that you're going to have to make room to accomplish that new thing. Truth is, a new vision and a new purpose requires a new you. You're going to have to be new. You're going to have to become the word and not just hear the word. We're not just hearing the word, but we're hearing the word so that we can become the very word that is spoken over us. We have to become the person, become that one for where God is taking us. And that means change must happen. Change must take place, because truth is, a new vision and a new purpose requires a new you. You must be new in your mind, new outwardly. You must be new in every aspect of your life where God is taking you. Because truth is, one thoughtful moment moment is worth more than 1,000 mindless traditions. What are we saying? That we're taking absolute thought into everything that we do. We're becoming people of extreme intention, intentional with our time, intentional with our actions, intentional with what our goals are, what God has given to us. We will be intentional about every step of the process God is walking us through. The truth is, there is nothing more threatening to the progress of a new thing than an old mind. And so we're getting our books together, we're getting our studying together, we're increasing the good input into our lives so that we can have greater outcomes from our lives. We're inputting good seed, put some seed in the chat, inputting good seed so we can have a bountiful harvest from this result. Because if our mind isn't transformed, we will turn every new thing right back into an old thing. We'll turn every new thing right back into an old thing if our mind is not transformed. We must give ourselves, man, more things to consider about where we're going and what God's doing in our lives. And that's why we said, listen, you got to study. You got to be about that action, boss. You got to have books. You got to be reading your word. You have to prioritize you. That's what I'm saying. Like when you decide to invest in you, you're saying, I believe me. And we have to stop asking other people to believe in us when we haven't taken one step that says we actually believe in us. You have to start valuing you, investing in you, and seeing that you are worth the time, you're worth the sacrifice, you're worth taking that moment and building yourself up and not just being on a hamster wheel. Because the truth is, the thoughts you meditate on form the identity you walk in. And so, as you are getting your mind renewed, as you are seeing yourself in that new occupation, in that new place, your mind starts to form a new reality and you start to walk more confident. You start to walk bolder. If any of you guys have been feeling better throughout your day because of how you start in your day, just put a sunshine in the chat like Pastor. I have been feeling better throughout my day based on how I've been starting my day. Just put a sun in the chat, put a smile in the chat. Be like, listen, I feel so proud of myself going into my day because I know that I'm investing in me. I'm investing in my future. I'm taking time to do what's necessary, that I don't remain the same. And that will build a greater confidence, that will create momentum. Remember what I said before, that in the morning, see the morning as seed sown for harvest you get throughout the day. If you sow structure in the morning, you will reap structure in the evening. If you sow being on time in the morning, you will reap being on time in the evening. If you invest in yourself in the morning, you will reap the harvest in the evening. All your morning activity is investment for what the fruit you expect to see throughout the day. Like if you sow late, you're gonna be late throughout the day. It just keeps colliding. And so we want to sow good seeds in that morning. See everything that we're doing as seeds being sown for a great future that is going to come. You will reap a seed, will reap a harvest from every seed sown. And as I say, I know we've been building this thing up, but I need those notebooks thick before we make that transition and we start to talk about how to take all these things you've been compiling and build out our four parts: our purpose, our picture, our plan, and our accountability. I need you guys to just keep stacking it so that when we come, you're not coming empty, but you're coming full. And so, whew, y'all ready? Y'all ready? Are you ready? Put some runners in the chat again. Let's get some more runners in the chat because you guys know we start every day on our Perfect Formula book by Craig Ballantyne, which is teaching us how to control, conquer, and concentrate throughout our day. And I just want to remind you guys that every time you pick up something new, I advise you go back through your notes in the book to see how to reprogram your day. I told you guys before, I read this book maybe three, sometimes four times a year when God speaks something new to make sure that I'm applying the principles of how to form a perfect day according to the new He's bringing to me. Every year, at least once a year, going into the new year, you should be doing that. When you take a new job, you should be doing that. Anytime you have those massive transitions of your time, a new work schedule, you need to remind yourself of the principles that create the greatest day that you could have. And man, I'm telling you, it is powerful. But today, in the book, it talked about the importance. Success is making a decision to put first things first. Success is just you making a decision to put first things first. I will no longer put the most important things about my day, my life at the end and at the last. Oh, I will not do it. I will not do it. Success is making a decision to put the first things first. And I love, man, you guys have been responding in the chat, and someone wrote in the chat the other day that, listen, they decided to start doing their bills first, which was a massive jump. Like normally they just wait to the end of the month. They just drag it as far as they could. But they talked about how incredible it was for them to just do it first. Just do it first. They have to be paid. Just pay them first. Listen, we have to get out of that scarcity mindset. And that's how you jump out of that scarcity mindset. I'm trying to tell you right now, many people are waiting for God to bring financial breakthrough, but he's like, you're practicing bad principles, bad financial principles right now. You're waiting to the last minute to do everything. You're waiting to the last minute to get things that are critically important done. You're waiting on them to call you. You're waiting on all these types of things. When truth be told, if this is something that is important, it should be happening first. It should be the first thing that you do. You should be paying on time and before time. Our goal isn't to hold on to our cash as long as we can. Our goal is to say, listen, let me take care of first things first, and I believe God will bless the rest. God will bless the rest. I will not drag these things through because it's also a mental weight. Every day you're checking your account trying to subtract bills you haven't paid yet. Just go ahead and pay the bills and you will see how much you have. Eliminate the stress. Stop wondering, man, did I pay this one? Did I pay? Just go ahead and take care of it. Put the first things first. Because successful people make a very conscious decision to always put the first things first. They do it. They do it. First things go first. I'm not gonna put the first things last because it just weighs on my life, it weighs on my conscience, and it causes stress. Choose what's most important, then focus on building your time around what happened. Let me go back and say this. You can incrementally do this because I know a lot of people are like, Pastor, I don't have all the money to pay all my bills like that. Pick one, just pick one of your bills and say, you know what, I'm gonna start with this bill and I'm gonna start paying it early. Start that habit. Start that habit. Start that habit. Like this bill, my cell phone bill, I will pay this one early. And start that habit and watch how God blesses your willingness to bring principles to your finances. God will step in when he sees you exercising principles that will further where you're going. Like God's not blessing your mess is what I'm saying. And so listen, start where you can. If it's I don't know, pick a 30, pick whatever, pick the smallest one. Pick the one that you can handle at this point and start paying that one first and make the goal to do every single one of your bills the same and watch God walk you through it. I'm trying to tell you, God will work with it. Next, second thing is choose what's most important, then focus on building your time around what habits you need to form for you to perform consistently well on it. Like, listen, once you've decided what's important, then you must choose habits, form habits around you being able to consistently perform that task well. And this is so big because once I've decided, okay, this is what's most important for Pastor Brian, preaching and studying is what's most important. And so I have to form habits around preaching and teaching and studying. And that's why it's the first thing I do when I wake up every day. The first thing I do is I get into my word and I study and then I preach and I get ready for what I have to do. And so that's what you have to do. You have to make sure your habits are similar or matching, or like we said, behavioral congruence is happening, and that the fact that your most important thing, your habits are supporting them, your daily routine are supporting those things so that you can perform well on them. Then right, the next thing we're going to hit today out of our perfect formula day is identify steps to success and rules for your life. Identify steps for success and rules for your life. And I would like to just give you some examples for that, right? I know that, man, the first thing I do when I wake up, and especially on Saturday nights before I have to teach on the Sunday, I make sure I don't eat heavy the night before. Why? Because that will just drag into my morning. It's hard to wake up when you have filled yourself or overflowed yourself the night before. And so I made a rule so that when that morning hits, I'm prepared and ready to go. I don't intake certain content over the weekend. Like I don't watch scary movies. I don't watch all I just don't do it. I don't watch anything when I know that I am being prepared for a moment. I do not do it. I have a rule for myself to make sure that my conscience stays clear, to make sure that I'm not intaking things and those things starting to weigh heavy on my heart when I'm looking to be an open vessel. And also, man, I make sure that I sow into my wife and my daughter over the weekend because they know, man, he's about to go into a dark zone in studying. And my love it, my daughter now recognizes it. Amber will come around, and like, Daddy, are you studying? I say, yes, babe, I'm studying right now. But I have a habit of doing it so she knows when the time is. It's a consistent time. She sees it. But before that time, some point during the weekend, I make sure that I sow into their lives either time or whatever it may be to make sure that they don't see it as something that's taking away from them, that I'm not taking something away from them, but at the same time they understand like what daddy has to do. But it's not over the place, it's consistent, and they know it. They know the times, they know the moments, and they support it, and it's a beautiful thing. Why? Because rules have been put around it, steps have been put around it, and you have to do the same thing with what's most valuable in your life. People need to know who are interacting with you when you are working, when you are studying, when you're preparing, when you're prepping. But it takes consistency for those people to recognize that, right? But winning habits begin with proper planning. Listen, you have to start planning in order to make sure that you're hitting the ground with momentum. What do I mean by that? I mean, I know that I'm going to study in the morning. The night before, I set up my books. The night before, I determine the subject. The night before, I make sure everything is laid out so that when I wake up, I can get right to it. And many people, you wake up early and you spend the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes preparing and grabbing the things that you really could have set up the night before that gave you momentum going into it. Remember, whatever you were sowing that morning, you will reap in the evening. If you sow momentum, you will reap momentum throughout your day. And so it's so important that if once you've identified it, is that you set up the tools you need to succeed. Now I'm gonna just go ahead and say this, and I'm gonna call some people out. Some of y'all just need to go ahead and write down all your passcodes somewhere. Man, I don't know how much time I watch people waste because they can't even remember their passcodes. Like, man, you shouldn't be that confused about it. Like, a lot of time gets wasted because people cannot remember the codes they set up to access the different accounts that they have. Listen, and there's nothing that's going to break your momentum when you're ready to go when not having things properly in place. So we have to get those things in place, write it down, put it in a place to where so when you start to go, it's like, oh no, my passcodes are here. So I can make sure that I'm going through things seamlessly. I'm not putting obstacles in the way of what I'm trying to get done, but I'm being very studious about it. Listen, next I'm gonna go on to our chapter of the day, right? In First Corinthians 10, this is beautiful, and it just reminds me. This whole passage reminds me of a principle that I have that I just keep simple, and so I will share with you. But one of the simple principles that I live by is, Brian, just live life like you've learned some lessons. Just live life like you learned some lessons. Just approach life like you've learned something. And that's what Paul was saying here when he opened up and he says in verse 1, he says, I do not want you to forget, dear brothers and sisters, about your ancestors in the wilderness long ago. All of them were guided by a cloud that moved ahead of them, and all of them walked through the sea on dry land. In the cloud and in the sea, all of them were baptized as followers of Moses. All of them ate the same spiritual food, and all of them drank the same spiritual water, for they drank from the spiritual rock that traveled with them, and that rock was Christ. And that's the big thing that Paul was getting to, was reminding them that, listen, understand and don't not forget your ancestors and what happened with them. Live life like you've learned some lessons, that in that moment when they didn't have and they couldn't see, that God provided and that God made a way. Don't forget that it was God that was in that cloud. Don't forget that it was Jesus that was in that provision. And a lot of times when we're going through life, it's so easy for us to forget that it was God that made the way, that it was Jesus that made the way. A lot of times we see the solution and we forget that the solution was made by God. Like, God provided the solution. God provided the way. Jesus became the answer. And a lot of times we can forget that he's been all the while at work in our lives. And Paul's like, it's so important that you do not forget those things, because as you move forward, you're going to have to project that character on what's next. Like when you can't see what's happening, you're going to have to reflect on what was. You're going to have to reflect and then cast what you have seen on what's ahead of you. You guys know I like to say it. We like to reflect and discover the character of God so that we can project that character on our future. And that's what Paul was saying. He's like, listen, it was Jesus that got it done. And as believers, we know how important it is that we never forget that it is Jesus that got it done before. And it's Jesus that's going to get it done now. He's our solid rock. Put rocks in the chat. Put rocks in the chat for Jesus. He is our solid rock, our firm foundation. He is the one on which we stand. Listen, and so Paul goes on to further say, listen, guys, you have to decide for yourself if what I'm saying is true. Make the decision, reflect, and think about how he led the ancestors out, how he let them out. The same God that let them out is the same God that will lead you out. And I'm telling you guys today on this chat, in this morning, that guess what? The same God that led the children of Israel out is the same God who will lead us out. But we have a greater covenant based on better principles and better promises. And God is not done with us yet. He is just beginning, and he is excited about the decision we're making in this moment. And he is leading us out. And so in verse 13, this is one of the most popular scriptures that we stand on. It says, the temptation in your life are no different than what others have experienced. He was like saying, like, listen, don't isolate yourself and think that something has happened to you that God hasn't already delivered others from. What's happening to you isn't new. What's happening to you or going on in your life isn't something that God cannot handle. Our God has handled every battle. He has won every type of victory, and he will guide you through like he's been guiding his people through. Man, I'm getting so excited, man. Put a praise in the chat. I don't even know how to put a praise in the chat, but put a praise in the chat for a God who is faithful, a God who is just, a God who remembers, a God who restores, a God who changes and makes all things new, everything new. Man, I'm hyped this morning. And it says, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than what you can stand. And when you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. And I tell people all the time, you have to remember, he's showing you a way out. Many people are looking for a way up when God's showing ways out. God's like, you got to get out of this. You got to get out of this. And then we can talk about progressing up. You got to make the choice, make the change, get out of this thing, and then we'll start progressing. But many people, they don't want to change out because they're always looking for a way up. But no, the first step in any situation is to get out. Jesus says he's making a way of escape. For every type of trouble and every type of trial that's coming against you, there is a way out. And many people, like I said, they're pausing because they're looking for a way up. But God's giving ways out. Then you go up. See, put in the chat, say out. Just get out. Make the decision in the mess, in the drama. Get out. God promises a way of escape. A way of escape. I tell people all the time, when I think about the children of Israel, when they were standing in front of the sea and it parted, right? And it parted open for them, it was like, hey, man, it's not going to end on this shore. And so I don't know if they had great confidence and even knew that it was a miracle of God. They just knew that this is the way out. It wasn't until they got to the other side of the sea and that it closed up. But at some point, both Pharaoh's army and the children of Israel were crossing through the same way out. It wasn't a way of escape until they got to the other side. Listen, it didn't close until they decided to go through. And it wasn't until they got to the other end that they realized that this was the very thing that God was going to use to end the Pharaoh's armies from pursuing them. Listen, they just saw it ain't going to end on this shore. I'm going to get out today. Put it in the chat. Just get out. Just get out. Just get out. And so also I want to read to you today from our Trust Me book, which is on our spiritual development of faith. And it talks about, Pastor Poe was talking today about what you believe you'll have faith in. And what you have faith in is what you will do. What you believe, you will have faith in. And what you have faith in is what you will do. And understanding this, that our God shall supply all of our needs. Believe it, have faith in it, because what you have faith in it is what you will respond to. And Pastor talked about every generation has had a season of fear because it's how Satan works. And it's so important for us to remember that. I know people are like, man, there's COVID, man, there's high inflation, man, there's things going on. Every generation has had a season of fear. Every generation has had a season of fear. And in every generation, our God has supplied. In every generation, our God has made a way. In every generation, God has provided favor for his people. God ain't changed, and he's not changing. He is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And he has favor in this season for you. And I want to show you these points because these points are so big, because I believe God wanted me to deal today about how to avoid the scarcity mindset. How to avoid the scarcity mindset. Listen, first thing we must do in this season so that we don't become a product of the fear Satan is trying to push, so that we don't become a product of fear that Satan is trying to push, he does it every generation, is we must adopt an abundance mindset. We must adopt an abundance mindset. What is an abundance mindset? Is someone else's success is not your loss. Is realizing and recognizing that someone else's success is not your loss. Even if you might feel that others are ahead of you in the money game, remind yourself that you're an entirely separate person with a completely different set of life circumstances and experiences. Adopting an abundance mindset as opposed to a scarcity can serve as a reminder that there's more than enough to go around. The first thing you have to do in these types of seasons is remind yourself that there's more than enough going around, and that someone else's success is not your loss. You have to remind yourself that you are not ahead, you're not behind the game. You have to remind yourself that everybody has completely different set of circumstances, have a completely different set of experiences. And so you're going to adopt the mindset that says their blessing is not my loss, but I'm going to celebrate their blessing, realizing that in this season, there is still provision being made available. You have to celebrate when people start getting provision, even when it's not yours to have. You have to fight against that scarcity mindset and adopt an abundance mindset. Because every time you celebrate somebody else winning, in your heart and in your mind, you're saying to yourself, it's available. There's enough to go around. It's available. There's enough going around. Man, sometimes listen, I'm going to the next one because I have four more to go. But it says express gratitude. You have to express gratitude in these seasons. Nobody's financial life is perfect. That's the truth. Nobody's financial life is perfect. That's just the truth. And it's fair to say that pretty much everyone has some level of financial worry. There's something everybody is trying to worry about. But you guys know we don't worry about anything. We pray about everything. We make our requests known to God. Be thankful that you're doing everything you can to improve your finances, and be grateful for what you've already accomplished. You have to bring gratefulness to your financial condition and remind yourself, I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing everything I should, and I'm doing everything that God has placed before me to do. And so I will not worry, but I will pray about everything and express gratitude for what I do have. What am I doing again? I'm trying to fight, and we're fighting against a scarcity mentality. We're trying to work against that mind that keeps saying that there isn't enough. And man, I'm trying to tell you, these principles are so good because it will keep you focused. It will keep your heart in the right posture so that you can receive what God is going to do. Listen, also, you have to acknowledge incremental progress. You have to acknowledge incremental progress. Paying off even the smallest of debt or contributing to your employer sponsors retirement plans are accomplishments, and they should be acknowledged. Small positive steps can lead to significant progress over time. Small wins matter. Also indicate that your behavior is in line with your bigger goals. Man, deciding to downgrade from an extra large drink to a large drink, it may seem small, but you have to acknowledge small incremental progress in your life when you're in that season of trying to fight that scarcity mentality and turn on that abundance mind. You have to celebrate your small wins. Man, I just saved $1 today, but that's $1 more I didn't have. You cannot downplay the small accomplishments that you're making financially, but you have to celebrate saving that. You have to celebrate doing that. You have to celebrate your efficiency. Celebrate it. Celebrate it. Man, I saved $5 today. Thanks be to God. Man, I saved $2 a day. Thanks be to God. Like, man, I went ahead and made that choice to sacrifice. Thanks be to God. I'm moving in the right direction. I'm thankful for what He's provided for me. I'm being a steward over what He's given me. And you have to fight against it. Then you have to remind yourself that you are in control. You are in control. Everyone comes from a different background and different set of circumstances. With mind, you have to control over the decisions you make around the money on a day-to-day basis. The feeling that you have control and that you have the ability to improve your financial situation can help a great deal at wealth building stage. It's like you have to constantly remind yourself, I do have control. I do have control. I do have control. And I will make the choices that will move me forward. Even if they're small and incremental, I do have control. I'm not out of control. I am not a victim of my financial condition. Man, I may be a product of choices I previously made, but I'm making better choices starting today. I'm making better choices starting to now. And I'm taking control. I'm taking control. I'm not giving control. I'm taking control and be willing to do the work. If you're unsure about certain topics in personal finances, there's a bunch of resources. Many people have resources on how to help you and study and become financially sound. It isn't always about receiving more. People think if I had more, I would be better. No, you need better principles so when the more comes, it doesn't get wasted. Listen, it's about principles. It's about values. It's about rules. And so you're in a financial condition right now. You need to add the financial book to this process so that you're getting new mindsets, a new mentality face versus money. Many people think that they are where they are because they're not making enough money. That's not true. You have a bad relationship with money, and you need to acknowledge that, own that, and realize that I need a new mentality concerning money, not just a bigger check. That is nothing. A bigger check will end up doing the same thing that you are doing now. Like my dad always said, money isn't anything but an amplifier. It will amplify who you are right now, what you do right now, and the decisions you make right now. Money's just an amplifier. Amen to that. So also going on to our purpose book, or your place of vocation. Of course, you guys know I'm reading Bigger, Faster, Stronger Leadership, and of course, you can read the book that is in your area. But this was so good today. And of course, this is still in that line of talking about how to deal with failures. But today it made a very pressing thing, and I want you guys to hear this because this is awesome. But it says, listen, leaders must find a way to see disappointments as turning points. Like when failure has happened, disappointment has occurred. How can you make this into a turning point? How can you use as a turning point? How can you turn this disappointment into a launching pad for what God can do next? That's your mentality. Like we are where we are. What happened happened. But in this moment, I will seek heaven on how to turn this discipline into a launching pad, into a turning point to where God is taking us next. And when you experience significant setbacks, we must adopt an attitude that is one of optimism, tenacity, and faith. Y'all put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Put OTF in the chat. When you experience significant setbacks, you have to fight against any thoughts that don't bring optimism or hope. You have to fight against any thoughts that are trying to quiet your tenacity, your willpower to do. And you have to, of course, be grounded in your faith that the same God that delivered my ancestors out of slavery is the same God that's going to deliver me out of this. It's the same God. He's always made a way. There will always be a way. He's not holding back any good or beneficial thing from you. And I just need to bring the optimism and the tenacity to my everyday. And I will grind. I will go. I will change. And I will do what has to be done that we still win. We will win. Put the awards in the chat. Put the awards in that. Man, whew, this has been good. Just put some fruit in the chat. Y'all know, put the fruit in the chat if this has been some good eating this morning. And I pray that you guys have been fired up. Man, put some fruit in the chat. Bring the OTF to the table. Optimism, tenacity, and my faith. I'm bringing it to the table. This will not be the end for us. This will not be the end for me. This will not be the end for you. But we will see God's faithfulness in our finances. We will see God's faithfulness in our lives. We will see experience the goodness of God right here in the land of the living. We will take control. We will not wait for control to show up. We will take control. We will honor what we need to honor. We will set up structures that we need to set up. We will bring optimism, tenacity, and faith to our everyday lives. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, I'm hyped up. You guys know I always love to end with some inspiration from Divine Direction, 7 decisions that will change your life, right? And this is what we're ending on today. Man, this has been good. I'm so excited. Don't forget, y'all, thumbs up if you woke up 15 minutes earlier, thumbs down if you didn't. Yes, yes, accountability matters. But here we are from Divine Direction. When you can't see God's hand, choose to trust his heart. When you can't see God's hand, choose to trust his heart. And I know today I was dealing with a lot of things financially speaking, and a lot of people are waiting to see God's hand, telling you in financial scarcity, in moments where you don't have enough, you have to choose to trust God's heart as a provider and wake up every day and remind yourself that my God is a provider. He's always made a way. He will make a way through this. He will make a way through this. I will apply principles. I will get my mindset in order. I will prepare for abundance. I will not let my heart turn to a heart of scarcity, but I will allow my heart to always focus on abundance. There is enough, there's more than enough. I will have an attitude of gratitude as it concerns financial conditions. I will celebrate other people's success because it just reminds me that there is enough and that favor is available. And I will do the work I need to do so that I make better decisions financially. Man, God, if there's a mindset in me that you're waiting for it to change, for the overflow of finances to come into my life, then God, I will adopt that mindset. I will go get me a book on finances. I will learn how finances work. Your only answer can't be more. That is not the answer. There are principles behind every financial season God is walking you through. There's principles and values he's wanting you to adopt for the next financial chapter in your life. And you have to trust God's heart. He's not withholding anything from you, but he is wanting you to press in this season so that you can reap the benefits in the next. Listen, we have to be better financially. We have to. We have to have principles. We have to be disciplined, and we have to show God that we can handle the abundance that we're praying for. When you can't see God's hand, choose to trust his heart. He hasn't given you. He hasn't failed on you. He is a provider, and he will make a way where there seems to be no way. I love you guys. I thank God for you guys. And as you know, it's a good day to have a good day. Pastor Brian Pope, Mr. Good News himself, Mr. Change Your Life, signing off. Extreme Change Challenge, day